Hey there, thanks for clicking on this. I appreciate it. This video is about a theory that's been haunting me for months now, a pattern I've been seeing across every Fallout game. Something that connects the Vault Dweller, the Chosen One, the Lone Wanderer, the Courier, and the Soul Survivor in ways that go deeper than just being protagonists in a video game series. What if they're not different people at all? What if every Vault hero is the same consciousness being reborn? The same soul experiencing the Wasteland through different bodies, different lifetimes, different vaults? What if the pattern isn't coincidence but reincarnation? I know how it sounds, but stick with me. Because the evidence is there if you know where to look. The similarities are too precise, the timing too perfect, the cycle too consistent to be random. This is a deep dive into what I'm calling the Fallout Reincarnation Theory. The idea that the Wasteland doesn't just create heroes, it resurrects them over and over, century after century, vault after vault. And if you genuinely enjoy this kind of dark storytelling, consider subscribing and liking the channel, but only if it truly resonates with you. Now let me tell you what I found, what I witnessed, what I can never forget. I need to tell you something before it's too late, before the radiation takes what's left of my memory, before I forget the pattern I've been seeing across these Wasteland years. My name doesn't matter anymore. None of our names ever really mattered, did they? What matters is what I've discovered, what I've been piecing together from terminal entries, from the way certain events keep repeating themselves, from the dreams that aren't quite dreams. There's a cycle in the Wasteland, a pattern that's been playing out since the bombs fell. And I think I'm part of it. I think we all are. Listen to me carefully. This isn't madness talking, even though I know how it sounds. Every generation, someone steps out of a vault. Every generation, they're thrown into chaos they never asked for. They're handed an impossible task. Find a water chip, save a village, locate a father, deliver a package, find a son, and every single time they succeed beyond all measure. They don't just complete their mission. They reshape the entire wasteland around them. The Vault Dweller walked out of Vault 13 in 2161, defeated the Master, saved the West Coast, was exiled for being too changed by the outside world. 80 years later, their grandchild, the Chosen One, left the village of Arroyo, destroyed the Enclave, rebuilt civilization piece by piece. Then came the Lone Wanderer from Vault 101, Project Purity, the Brotherhood of Steel. The capital Wasteland transformed. The Courier, shot in the head, survived, shaped the fate of New Vegas in 3 armies. The Soul Survivor, frozen for 2 centuries, woke up, decided the future of the Commonwealth and whether synthetic life deserved to exist. Do you see it yet? Do you see the pattern I'm talking about? They're all different people, different names, different faces, different backgrounds. That's what everyone assumes. That's what makes sense in a world where record-keeping barely exists and oral history gets twisted with every retelling. But what if it's something else? What if there's a reason why these individuals keep emerging? Why they all possess the same unnatural resilience? The same ability to master any weapon they pick up? The same talent for inspiring loyalty in the most hardened wasteland survivors? I started noticing the similarities 6 months ago. I'm a scavenger, see? I move between settlements, trading in pre-war documents, old military records. Anything I can pull from ruins before the rad storms make them uninhabitable. I've read hundreds of accounts, thousands of fragmented stories. The thing about the Wasteland is that information travels slowly, but it does travel. And when you spend enough time connecting the dots between different regions, different time periods, you start to see things that shouldn't be there. 3 weeks ago, I found a holotape in an old NCR outpost, some officer recording his thoughts about the Second Battle of Hoover Dam. He described the Courier, the way they moved in combat, the way they made split-second decisions that turned impossible situations into victories. He said something that made my blood run cold. He said the Courier fought like they'd done it before, like they had centuries of combat experience compressed into one person. That got me thinking about other accounts I'd read. A Brotherhood scribe in the capital Wasteland who documented the Lone Wanderer's exploits. She noted the same thing, an unnatural competence, as if the 19-year-old Vault Dweller had somehow absorbed the tactical knowledge of 100 different soldiers. I went back through my collection, started cross-referencing everything I had on these Vault heroes, and the more I looked, the more the coincidences piled up until they stopped being coincidences. They all emerge at critical moments in history. Right when the Wasteland needs them most, they all face threats that should kill them immediately. Raiders, super mutants, deathclaws, military factions, and somehow they survive. They don't just survive, they win. They all have this strange effect on people around them. Hardened mercenaries follow them. Factions trust them. Even their enemies often respect them. There's something about their presence that changes the fundamental nature of the conflicts they enter. Now, you're probably thinking, this is just what heroes do. This is the nature of exceptional individuals rising to meet exceptional circumstances. But here's where it gets strange. Here's the part that keeps me awake at night, listening to the wind howl through the ruins and wondering if I've uncovered something I shouldn't have. There are documented cases of people recognizing these heroes, not knowing them personally, but recognizing something about them, something familiar that they can't quite name. Marcus, the super mutant, he traveled with the Chosen One. Later, he talked about meeting them as if he'd seen someone he'd known before. Even though they'd never met, he said their eyes looked old, older than they should have been. Dog meat, the damn dog. There's a dog meat in multiple accounts, separated by decades, different regions of the Wasteland. Same breed, same loyalty, same uncanny ability to find these vault dwellers and attach themselves to them immediately. Like the dog knows something we don't. Like it's been waiting. What do you think really happened here? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd like to know if I'm the only one who feels this way. The more I research, the more I find these little threads connecting disparate stories across time and space. It's like looking at a tapestry from too close up. You see individual threads, but step back far enough, and suddenly there's a picture there. A face, the same face, over and over, wearing different features. I think there's a consciousness in the Wasteland, something that survived the Great War the same way some humans did, but changed, transformed, made into something new. I think it chooses people, dormant souls living normal lives in their vaults, unknowing until the moment comes, until they're needed. And then something wakes up inside them, not a possession, not mind control, something deeper, something that was always there, sleeping, waiting for the call, the original soul, the first Wasteland wanderer, reborn again and again in different bodies, with different memories of their mortal life, but always carrying that same core of unbreakable will, that same drive to fix what's broken, to protect the innocent, to stand against impossible odds. Reincarnation. That's the only word that fits, but not the mystical kind from pre-war religious texts. Something unique to the Wasteland itself. The radiation doesn't just mutate bodies, it mutates reality, tears holes in the fabric of what's possible. And through those holes, something eternal keeps returning. I know how this sounds. I know you think I've been out in the waste too long, breathing in too much ionized dust, letting the isolation crack my mind open. But I have evidence, real evidence. There's a pre-war military facility I found 4 months ago, buried deep under what used to be Colorado. The security was still active. The automated defense systems hadn't noticed the world ended. Took me 3 tries to get inside without getting vaporized by ancient laser turrets. Inside, I found research, black site research, the kind that was classified even before the bombs fell. They were studying something they called persistent consciousness syndrome. Soldiers who reported experiencing memories that weren't theirs, combat situations they'd never been in, skills they'd never trained. For the reports dated back to 2076, 1 year before the Great War, they'd identified 17 individuals across the United States military who exhibited these symptoms. 17 people who all tested positive for unusual neural patterns, brainwave signatures that overlapped despite the individuals never having met. The lead researcher wrote in her final notes that they weren't dealing with psychological trauma or radiation effects. They were dealing with something that didn't fit any existing framework of human consciousness, something she called recursive identity manifestation. Her theory was that certain consciousness patterns were stronger than others, resilient enough to survive death and find new hosts. Not ghosts, not spirits in the traditional sense, but imprints on reality itself, echoes that grew louder with each iteration until they could shape new lives into familiar patterns. She was running experiments, trying to trigger these manifestations deliberately, create soldiers who could access combat experience from previous lives, super soldiers who would never truly die as long as suitable hosts existed. The project was called Operation Closed Loop. The last entry in the research logs was dated October 22, 2077, the day before the bombs fell. She wrote that they'd succeeded. They'd triggered a manifestation in one of their test subjects, a young soldier who suddenly possessed tactical knowledge spanning multiple lifetimes, who moved through combat simulations as if he'd fought those battles before, who scored perfectly on tests he'd never trained for. They'd proven it was possible, proven that consciousness could transcend individual lifetimes given the right conditions, and then the world ended. But here's the thing about those 17 individuals they identified, the ones with the unusual neural patterns. 13 of them were stationed in locations that had vault tech facilities nearby, vaults that were scheduled to open at specific times over the next 2 centuries. The researchers' final hypothesis, written in the margins of a report I found scattered across a desk, was that whatever they'd discovered wasn't isolated to their test subjects. It was a natural phenomenon, and the nuclear apocalypse, with its massive release of radiation and energy, might amplify it, might create conditions where these persistent consciousnesses could manifest more easily. She thought the Wasteland would become a breeding ground for reincarnation. I think she was right. Think the Vault Dweller, the Chosen One, the Lone Wanderer, the Courier, the Soul Survivor. I think they're all expressions of the same fundamental consciousness, the same soul born again and again into different lives, pulled toward vaults and wasteland conflicts by forces none of us understand. Maybe it started with that original test subject in 2076. Maybe it goes back further. Maybe there's been one person living and dying and living again for longer than any of us can trace. A hero who can never rest. Who gets pulled back every time the wasteland needs someone to stand in the gap. Who forgets their previous lives when they're born, but carries the skills, the instincts, the unbreakable core of who they are beneath the surface memories. A curse dressed up as destiny, or maybe a blessing. Who can say, to be chosen, to be the one who makes a difference, again and again throughout history, to never fade away, never become just another forgotten name in the wasteland's endless casualties. But at what cost? Every life, they lose someone. The Vault Dweller was exiled. The Chosen One lost their village elder and grew up with the weight of prophecy on their shoulders. The Lone Wanderer watched their father die. The Courier took a bullet to the head. The Soul Survivor lost their spouse and 2 centuries of their life. The Wasteland takes its payment. The hero always suffers. If I'm right about this, if these really are the same consciousness reborn, then somewhere in the deepest part of the Vault Dweller's mind, when they faced the Master, they remembered. They must have. The skills were too perfect, the knowledge too complete, and maybe, just for a moment, they knew they'd stood against monsters before, in other bodies, other times, and maybe that recognition is what saved them. I've been tracking patterns in vault openings, correlating them with major wasteland events, and I've noticed something terrifying. There are still unopened vaults, dozens of them scattered across America, time to open at future dates, some in 10 years, some in 50. Some in 100. If the pattern holds, if my theory is correct, then somewhere in one of those vaults, the next iteration is waiting, living a normal life, going through the motions of vault society, unaware that one day something will call to them, something will need them, and they'll step out into the wasteland carrying the weight of lifetimes they don't remember. The cycle continues. The hero returns. Again, I've been tracking something else, something I haven't told anyone about because once I say it out loud, once I admit what I've found, there's no going back. There are people in the wasteland who remember things they shouldn't. Not these vault heroes. Other people, ordinary wastelanders who sometimes experience flashes of recognition when they hear stories about the Vault Dweller or the Courier, like hearing about a friend they never met, like mourning someone they never knew. I interviewed 47 of them over the last year, traveled from settlement to settlement, asking careful questions, never revealing what I was really searching for. And 32 of them described the same phenomenon. They said, when they heard about these heroes, something stirred in their chest, a feeling of profound loss mixed with hope, like remembering a dream that saved your life. One old woman in a caravan rest stop told me she sometimes dreams about a Vault Dweller, not any specific one, just the concept of them, someone emerging from underground to save everyone. And in the dream, she's watching from a distance, and she knows this person, knows them deeply. But when she wakes up, the connection dissolves like morning fog. I think the reincarnation isn't isolated to one consciousness. I think it's spreading, like radiation itself seeping into the collective unconscious of the wasteland, creating connections between people who should be strangers, binding humanity together through this cycle of death and rebirth that none of us consciously understand. The wasteland is trying to heal itself, and it's using us to do it. That's the theory I've developed. It's not just about one hero being reborn. It's about the wasteland creating a network of persistent consciousness. The hero is the strongest expression, the clearest manifestation, but we're all part of it now. All connected through invisible threads of shared experience that transcend individual lifetimes. Every raider who the Vault Dweller talked down instead of killing. Every merchant who the Chosen One traded with fairly. Every settler who the Lone Wanderer protected. Every soldier who the Courier inspired. Every synth who the Sole Survivor freed. They all carry fragments of those encounters forward. And when they die, those fragments don't disappear. They sink into the wasteland itself, into the irradiated soil and the toxic rain, waiting to resurface in new lives. We're all being prepared for something. The wasteland is slowly, painfully, learning to remember itself, to carry wisdom forward instead of losing it with each generation. But there's a darker side to this. There always is. In that Colorado facility, I found another set of documents, sealed in a vault within the vault, protected by biometric locks I had to bypass with a plasma cutter. Someone wanted these records preserved, or hidden, maybe both. They detailed what happened to 3 of those 17 original test subjects, the ones who manifested persistent consciousness most strongly. They went insane, not immediately, not in ways that were obvious at first, but over months they started experiencing what the researchers called temporal bleeding. Memories from other lives intruding on their current existence, skills activating without conscious control, personality shifts as other versions of themselves tried to emerge. One subject reported feeling like he was living multiple lives simultaneously. He'd be in a training exercise, but he'd also be fighting in battles that hadn't happened yet, or had happened centuries ago. The present moment became just one thread in a tapestry of experiences he couldn't separate or control. Another subject became convinced she was immortal, that she'd lived through the Great War before, multiple times, in multiple bodies. She started taking insane risks during combat simulations, walking directly into gunfire, jumping from fatal heights, because in her fractured perception, death was temporary, just a transition to the next iteration. The third subject stopped speaking entirely. For 6 weeks before the bombs fell, he didn't say a single word. When researchers tried to communicate with him, he just stared at them with eyes that one doctor described as looking through time itself, seeing everything and nothing. They found him dead in his quarters on October 23, 2077, the day the bombs fell. He died sometime during the night before. Natural causes, the brief autopsy report claimed, though every scanner showed his body was still in peak physical condition. His heart just stopped, as if he'd decided to stop living, or as if he knew what was coming and chose to exit before the world ended. The documents suggested that strong manifestations of persistent consciousness came with a price. The human mind wasn't designed to hold multiple lifetimes simultaneously. The barriers between past and present, between self and other self, it would eventually break down. They called it cascade dissolution. The point where the consciousness becomes so distributed across time and probability that it loses coherence, stops being a single entity and becomes a kind of probability cloud, existing everywhere and nowhere, everyone and no one. The researcher who wrote these final reports believed that the only way to maintain stability was through amnesia. The reincarnated consciousness needed to forget its previous lives completely, only allowing fragments through in moments of extreme stress or danger, just enough to provide survival advantage without overwhelming the current personality. She wrote that if someone ever fully remembered all their past lives in the Wasteland, if the cycle became conscious of itself, the results would be catastrophic for that individual and potentially for reality around them. I think about that warning a lot, especially when I consider what I'm doing, trying to trace this pattern, trying to prove the cycle exists. What happens when the hero knows they're being reborn? When they step out of their vault carrying conscious memory of every previous iteration? Do they become unstoppable? Or do they collapse under the weight of all that accumulated trauma and loss? I found something 3 days ago that's made this question urgent, made it personal. There's a vault scheduled to open in 6 months. Vault 47, deep in the Midwest. I accessed their systems remotely using codes I pulled from that Colorado facility. Their computers still think it's pre-war, still think Vault Tech corporate oversight might check on them. I looked at the resident roster, 417 people living their normal Vault lives, waiting for the all-clear signal that will never come, preparing for a return to the surface that will be nothing like what they expect. One of them has the neural pattern. I can see it in the medical scan archives. The same unusual brainwave signature that those 17 test subjects showed. The same recursive identity markers that the pre-war researchers documented. A 23-year-old engineering technician named Sarah Chen. She doesn't know what she is, doesn't know what's sleeping inside her consciousness, doesn't know that in 6 months, when Vault 47's door opens on schedule, she'll be the one who steps out first, because she'll feel the call, the pull, the inexplicable certainty that she needs to see what's beyond that door. And once she's in the wasteland, once the radiation and chaos and desperate needs surround her, the hero will wake up. The cycle will continue. Sarah Chen will become something more and less than herself. Unless I stop it. That's why I'm recording this. Why I'm leaving these accounts scattered across the wasteland. Why I'm making sure this information survives, even if I don't. Because I think I can break the cycle, and I think I have to try. The researchers' notes included theoretical methods for disrupting persistent consciousness manifestation, ways to block the neural patterns from activating, radiation shielding of specific frequencies, neurochemical inhibitors, even crude behavioral conditioning that could prevent the hero consciousness from taking hold. If I reach Vault 47 before it opens, I can prepare Sarah Chen, warn her, maybe even inoculate her against the manifestation. Let her live a normal life. Let someone else carry the burden for once, or I can do nothing. Let the cycle continue. Let the wasteland have its hero. Let Sarah Chen sacrifice her identity to become whatever the wasteland needs her to be. Like all the others before her, I've been sitting on this decision for 3 days, haven't slept, haven't eaten much, just staring at the radiation storms on the horizon and trying to decide if I have the right to interfere with something this fundamental. Here's what troubles me most. In every account I've read, the hero makes things better, objectively better. The wasteland is slightly less terrible after they pass through. More settlements with clean water, more trade routes established, more communities learning to cooperate instead of slaughter each other. Progress. Actual measurable progress in a world that usually only knows decay. If I break the cycle, what happens? Does that progress stop? Do we lose our best chance at rebuilding civilization? How many people die because there's no hero to stand between them and the super mutants, the raiders, the enclave, the institute, whatever fresh horror emerges next? But then I think about the cost, the personal cost to whoever carries this burden. The Vault Dweller died alone. The records are vague, but best anyone can tell, they passed away in Arroyo without fanfare. Just another elder who lived and died. Except they weren't just another elder. They were a hero who saved the entire West Coast and got paid back with exile and obscurity. The Chosen One disappeared after defeating the Enclave. Some say they wandered off into the wasteland and never came back. Others claim they were assassinated by remnant Enclave forces. Either way, the person who saved the world didn't get a peaceful ending. The Lone Wanderer activated Project Purity and went into a coma from radiation exposure. They survived technically, but at what cost? What does it do to a person to sacrifice themselves like that at 19 years old? How do you build a normal life afterward? The Courier took a bullet to the brain. Even with the best medical intervention in the wasteland, that kind of trauma changes you, leaves permanent scars, physical and psychological. And then they were thrown into a war between 3 armies and forced to decide the fate of the entire Mojave. How does anyone bear that much responsibility? The sole survivor lost their spouse, their son, lost in different ways but lost nonetheless. And 200 years of human history. Woke up in a world where everyone they knew was dust, and they had to choose which faction's vision of the future would define the Commonwealth. How do you process that much grief and still function? The wasteland takes and takes and takes from these people, uses them up, squeezes every drop of heroism from them, and then discards them or demands more. Is it worth it? Is the progress we gain worth the systematic destruction of these individuals? And if it is worth it, who gets to make that choice? Who decides that Sarah Chen should sacrifice her normal life to become the next iteration of this endless cycle? If you've ever wondered what choice you would make in a situation like this, tell me in the comments. I'll be reading them. I packed my gear yesterday, started the journey toward Vault 47. I figure I've got 5 months to get there, scout the area, and decide what I'm going to do. 5 months to choose between preserving one person's humanity and preserving humanity's hope. The irony isn't lost on me. If my theory is correct, if these heroes are all reincarnations of the same consciousness, then Sarah Chen is all of them. She's the Vault Dweller and the Chosen One and everyone who came after. She just doesn't remember yet. Which means I'm choosing between letting one person suffer again, for the 100th time, or letting millions of people in the Wasteland face whatever's coming without their champion. Some choice. I've noticed something about myself over the past few months. My dreams have changed. I keep dreaming about vaults, different vaults. Vault 13, Vault 101, Vault 111. Vaults I've never seen in person but somehow recognize. And in the dreams, I'm opening the doors, not from the outside, from the inside. Like I've done it before. Like I've done it many times before. Last night, I dreamed I was standing in Vault 47. The door was opening. Light was streaming in from the wasteland outside, and I felt such profound relief, such desperate eagerness to step through that door and face whatever horrors waited beyond. Because anything was better than staying in the vault. Anything was better than safety. I woke up gasping, my heart racing, my hands shaking with adrenaline for a fight that wasn't happening. And I understood something I've been avoiding, something I didn't want to admit even to myself. I have the neural pattern too, not as strong as what I saw in Sarah Chen's medical files, but it's there, subtle, dormant, waiting. I've known for 3 weeks, found my own records in that Colorado facility's database. I was scheduled for testing back in 2076, low priority, borderline manifestation. They were going to call me in after they finished with the primary 17 subjects. Then, the bombs fell. I've been exposed to enough radiation over the years that it should have triggered something by now if it was going to. But maybe it hasn't because I've never been needed, never been in the right place at the right time, never stepped out of a vault into a wasteland that was crying out for someone to save it. Or maybe it's triggering right now. Maybe my obsession with tracking these heroes, with understanding the cycle, with finding Sarah Chen, maybe that's not curiosity. Maybe that's the manifestation finding a different expression, trying to protect itself, trying to ensure the cycle continues by pushing me to preserve the next iteration. Am I acting on my own free will? Or am I being puppeted by forces I thought I was studying objectively? How would I even know the difference? The wasteland is vast. The distance to Vault 47 is considerable. A lot can happen in 5 months. Raiders, radstorms, deathclaws, super mutant patrols. The usual threats. Maybe I won't make it. Maybe the choice will be taken out of my hands by simple wasteland brutality. Part of me hopes for that. Hopes something will kill me before I have to decide. Let fate or chance or the cruel mathematics of survival make this decision instead of me. But another part of me, the part that dreams about opening vault doors, knows I'll make it. Knows I'll arrive at Vault 47 exactly when I'm supposed to. Because that's what the cycle demands. That's what the persistent consciousness arranges. Every piece moving into position, every choice and illusion wrapped around inevitable conclusion. I'm 2 months into the journey now. The landscape has changed from the burned forests I knew into something stranger. The radiation here tastes different, feels different on your skin, like the world is holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. I've been following old highways that don't exist anymore, just scars across the landscape where asphalt used to be. The route takes me through what used to be Missouri. There's a settlement here called Ashton's Rest. 40 people living in the hollowed-out remains of a pre-war shopping complex. They've built walls from shopping carts welded together, growing crops in soil they've decontaminated one handful at a time. I stopped there 3 days ago to resupply, trade some ammunition for clean water and preserved food. And that's where I met Thomas. He was 15. Skinny kid with burns covering half his face from a radstorm he'd survived 2 years back. He worked the settlement's water purification system, 12 hours a day, turning toxic sludge into something almost drinkable. Boring work, endless work, but necessary work. He asked me where I was headed. I gave him a vague answer. West, just west. But he kept pressing. Said I had the look of someone on a mission. Said he could tell the difference between people running from something and people running towards something. Smart kid. Too smart for his own good, maybe. I told him I was trying to reach a vault before it opened. Told him I needed to warn someone inside. Didn't tell him why. Didn't tell him about the cycle or the reincarnation or any of the theory I've built. Just that someone needed warning. His eyes lit up. He said he'd heard stories about the Vault heroes. Said his grandfather used to talk about the Chosen One like they were a legend walking. Said everyone in the wasteland knew that when things got really bad, someone would emerge from underground to fix it. Then he asked me something that stopped me cold. He asked if I believed the heroes would keep coming. If the wasteland would always produce someone to save it when salvation was needed. Or if one day the vaults would run out and we'd be on our own. Truly on our own. No champions. No legendary wanderers, just ordinary people with ordinary courage facing extraordinary threats. I didn't have an answer. Still don't. But that night, I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about his question. Kept thinking about what the Wasteland would look like without the cycle. Without the hero being reborn every generation, maybe it would be better. Maybe humanity would learn to save itself. Develop systems and structures that didn't depend on exceptional individuals making impossible sacrifices. Maybe we'd actually build something lasting instead of lurching from crisis to crisis, always waiting for someone special to fix our problems. Or maybe we'd just die out. Maybe the only reason humanity has survived this long in the Wasteland is because of these heroes. Maybe without them, the super mutants or the raiders or the radiation itself would have finished us off decades ago. I left Ashton's Rest at dawn. Thomas watched me go from the settlement walls. He waved. I didn't wave back. Felt like bad luck somehow. Like acknowledging him would doom one of us. The landscape gets stranger the further west I travel. There are sections where reality doesn't quite hold together right. Places where the radiation has saturated everything so completely that physics gives up. You'll see rocks floating a few inches off the ground, water running uphill, shadows pointing in the wrong direction. The locals call these areas thin spots, places where the barrier between what is and what could be has worn down. Most people avoid them. Strange things happen in thin spots. People see things, experience things. Sometimes they don't come back out the same as they went in. I've been going through them deliberately, testing myself, testing whether I'm really just a scavenger with a theory or something more, something the Wasteland is shaping for its own purposes. Yesterday, I walked through a thin spot that took 3 hours to cross. Should have been 30 minutes based on the distance. But time doesn't work right in those places. Every step felt like pushing through water. The air shimmered with colors that don't have names, and I saw them. The heroes. All of them. Not hallucinations. Not exactly. More like impressions. Echoes of people who had never been to this specific location, but whose presence was somehow stamped into the fundamental fabric of the Wasteland itself. The Vault Dweller stood at the edge of my vision. Young. Determined. Holding that iconic 10mm pistol like it was the only solid thing in a dissolving world. They turned to look at me, and I saw recognition in their eyes, like they knew me, like they'd been waiting for me. Then the Chosen One appeared, older, harder, wearing tribal markings that meant something to people who were dust now. They carried the weight of prophecy in their posture, shoulders bent under invisible burden, but still standing, still moving forward. They nodded at me, a gesture of acknowledgement. Warrior to warrior, the lone wanderer flickered into existence next to them, so young, barely out of childhood, but their eyes held something ancient, something that had seen the world burn and chosen to rebuild it anyway. They smiled at me, sad smile, knowing smile. The Courier materialized with a bullet hole still visible in their forehead, scar tissue and Nevada dust. They looked at me with the expression of someone who's died once and learned to treat death as just another obstacle. They tipped an imaginary hat. The sole survivor appeared last, frost still clinging to their vault suit. They looked the most confused of all of them, like they were still processing what they'd become, what the Wasteland had made them. But underneath the confusion was steel, unbreakable steel. They all stood there in the thin spot, all staring at me, and I realized they weren't separate people anymore, not in this place where reality bent. They were aspects of the same being, the same consciousness fragmented across time and flesh and probability, and they were waiting for me to understand something. I walked toward them. Each step took a lifetime. The air thrummed with radiation and possibility, the space between us filled with whispers in languages I didn't know but somehow comprehended. They spoke in unison. All 5 voices layered into one. You already know the answer. You've known since you found the documents, since you traced the pattern, since you felt the call pulling you toward Vault 47. My voice came out raw. What answer? I don't know anything. I'm just trying to figure out if I should warn Sarah Chen or let this happen. They smiled. All of them. Same smile across 5 different faces. You're asking the wrong question. Sarah Chen doesn't need warning. She needs purpose. She needs the Wasteland to give her something worth becoming, just like all of us did. But the cost is always paid willingly. In the moment of transformation, when the hero awakens, there's a choice. There's always a choice. Step forward or step back. Accept the burden or refuse it. And every time the choice is step forward. Because the alternative is watching the world die when you could have saved it. The Vault Dweller moved closer. Their form flickered between different versions of themselves. Young and old, male and female, all the potential iterations they could have been. You think you're protecting her by breaking the cycle, but you're not. You're condemning her to a normal life in a world that doesn't allow normal lives. Everyone in the Wasteland suffers. Everyone pays a price. At least the hero's suffering means something. At least the hero's sacrifice changes things. The chosen one touched my shoulder. Their hand passed through me like smoke, but I felt it anyway. Felt the weight of tribal prophecy and grandmother's expectations and impossible missions completed against all odds. We're not victims. We're volunteers. The Wasteland doesn't force this on anyone. It offers, and we accept. Because we're the ones who can, because we're the ones who must. The lone wanderer's voice was softer, younger, but no less certain. My father died so Project Purity could work, and I activated it knowing I might die too, and I'd make the same choice again. Because clean water for the capital Wasteland was worth it. Because saving people is always worth it. The Courier laughed. Dry laugh. Desert laugh. Laugh of someone who found humor in getting shot in the head and surviving. I could have walked away from the Mojave Dam, could have taken the platinum chip and sold it, gotten rich and disappeared into the Wasteland, but I didn't. Because the NCR and the Legion and House all needed someone to force a decision. And I was there, and I was capable, so I did it. The sole survivor spoke last. Their voice carried the weight of 2 centuries of sleep, and the grief of a spouse murdered, and a son stolen, and a world ended. I lost everything. Everyone I loved was already dead before I even woke up. And I still chose to care about the Commonwealth. Still chose to decide its future, because giving up would have meant their deaths were meaningless. And I couldn't accept that. They began to fade. All of them, dissolving back into the radiation-soaked air of the thin spot. But before they disappeared completely, they spoke once more in that unified voice. The cycle doesn't need your protection. It doesn't need you to guard it or break it. It needs you to understand it, to witness it, to remember. That's your role. That's why you have the dormant pattern. You're not meant to be the hero. You're meant to be the one who knows why heroes exist. And then they were gone. The thin spot released me. Time reasserted itself. I stumbled out the other side, gasping like I'd been underwater. That was yesterday. I've been walking since then, haven't stopped, haven't slept, can't stop thinking about what I saw, what they said, whether it was real or just radiation, poisoning creating meaningful hallucinations. But I know what I have to do now. I'm still going to Vault 47, still going to be there when Sarah Chen steps out into the Wasteland for the first time. But I'm not going to warn her. I'm not going to try to break the cycle. I'm going to witness it, document it, watch the moment when an ordinary person becomes extraordinary. When the hero wakes up and accepts the burden they've carried 100 times before in bodies they don't remember. And then, I'm going to make sure the story survives. Make sure future generations understand what's happening. What's always been happening. What will continue to happen as long as the Wasteland needs heroes and consciousness persists beyond death. That's my purpose. That's what the dormant pattern in my neural pathways was waiting for. Not heroism, testimony, remembrance, truth. If this story has kept you listening this far and you want more of these dark confessions from the Wasteland, hit that subscribe button. It tells me someone out there is still paying attention to warnings like these. I'm 3 months into the journey now. The land has become almost unrecognizable. This far west, the radiation storms are constant. The sky looks like a bruise that won't heal. Purple and green and colors that hurt to look at directly. I've started seeing other thin spots. Not just isolated pockets anymore. They're spreading. Connecting, like the Wasteland itself is becoming one massive thin spot. Reality getting thinner everywhere, the barrier between past and present and future dissolving. In these places, I've seen other things, not the heroes. Other people, thousands of them, millions. Ghosts of everyone who died in the Great War. Ghosts of everyone who died in the Wasteland afterward. All of them waiting. All of them watching to see what happens next. The radiation isn't just mutating bodies. It's preserving consciousness. Every person who dies in the Wasteland leaves an impression. Most are too faint to matter, too scattered to cohere into anything meaningful, but some are strong enough. Some persist. Some find new hosts and live again. The heroes are just the strongest examples, the clearest signal. But the phenomenon is universal. We're all reincarnating, all carrying forward fragments of the dead. The Wasteland is becoming a collective consciousness. All of us connected through invisible threads of memory and experience that transcend individual lifetimes. This is what the pre-war researchers discovered. This is what they were trying to weaponize, but they didn't understand the scale. Didn't understand that they weren't creating something new. They were just identifying something that had always been there. something the nuclear apocalypse would amplify 1,000-fold. We're not separate anymore. Not really. Every person in the Wasteland carries echoes of everyone who came before. And when we die, we'll become echoes for those who come after. The hero is just the clearest voice in an endless chorus. I understand now why I had to make this journey, why I had to find the pattern, why the cycle needed someone to witness and remember. Because without understanding, without testimony, the phenomenon stays unconscious, stays dormant, stays just powerful enough to produce heroes, but not powerful enough to transform humanity itself. But with understanding, with conscious knowledge of what's happening, the cycle could evolve, could become something more, could turn all of us into heroes instead of just one person per generation. That's the real choice. Not whether to break the cycle, whether to expand it, whether to make everyone in the Wasteland conscious of the persistent pattern, give everyone access to the accumulated wisdom and experience of everyone who came before. Create a true collective consciousness, a hive mind of the dead and the living, all of us connected, all of us sharing the burden, all of us heroes together, or keep it the way it is. Concentrated, focused. One exceptional individual bearing the weight so the rest of us can remain ordinary, can live our small lives without the terrible responsibility of remembering everything. I met another traveler 2 weeks ago, an old ghoul named Marcus, not the Marcus from the stories, just someone with the same name. Common enough in the Wasteland, people name their children after legends, hoping some of that strength transfers. He was heading east. I was heading west. We shared a fire in the ruins of what used to be a gas station. The building's skeleton still stood, holding up nothing but sky and memory. Marcus had been walking the Wasteland for 80 years, turned ghoul in the first decade after the bombs fell, watched the world try to rebuild itself over and over, watched it fail over and over. He'd seen 3 of the heroes personally, the chosen one, the Courier, the sole survivor. You want to know the strangest thing? He asked me, stirring the fire with a piece of rebar. They all had the same look in their eyes, not the color, the expression, like they were remembering something they couldn't quite grasp, like they'd forgotten a word that was right on the tip of their tongue. I asked him what he thought that meant. He shrugged, ghoul shoulders moving under radiation-scarred skin that had outlasted everything it was supposed to protect. I think the Wasteland breaks people in specific ways, and maybe, just maybe, when you break in exactly the right pattern, you become something the Wasteland can use, something it needs, and then you're not really yourself anymore. You're a tool, a weapon, a solution to a problem that keeps recurring because the Wasteland can't actually be fixed. Just temporarily patched. He looked at me across the fire. His eyes were clouded with cataracts, but they saw clearly enough. You've got that same look starting, that remembering something forgotten expression. You becoming one of them, another hero for the Wasteland to chew up and spit out? I told him no, told him I was just a witness, just someone trying to understand the pattern, he laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together, like the earth settling after an explosion. That's what they all say at first. Nobody sets out to be a hero. They set out to find a water chip or a father or a package, and then the Wasteland gets its hooks in them. And by the time they realize what's happening, it's too late. They're already transformed, already committed, already heroes whether they want to be or not. We sat in silence for a while. The radiation storm on the horizon painted the sky in colors that didn't belong to any natural sunset. Then Marcus said something that's been haunting me ever since. You know what I think? I think there's only ever been one person in the Wasteland, one consciousness experiencing everything from every angle. The heroes are just the moments when that consciousness remembers itself, when it looks at itself from the outside and recognizes what it's become. And the rest of us? We're just background, scenery, NPCs in someone else's story. He stood up, gathered his pack, prepared to continue his eastward journey into whatever waited in that direction. Good luck finding your vault, he said. Hope whoever comes out of it is ready for what they're about to become. Because the Wasteland doesn't give anyone a choice. Not really. It just makes you think you had one. And then he was gone. Disappeared into the dark like he'd never been there at all. Like maybe he hadn't been. Like maybe I'd been talking to another echo. Another fragment of persistent consciousness trying to teach me something I needed to know. I'm 1 week away from Vault 47 now. I can feel it. Not on any map. Not based on any landmark. I just know. The same way you know when someone's watching you. The same way you know when a storm is coming. Instinct that goes deeper than thought. The land around the vault is empty. More empty than it should be. No settlements within 100 miles. No raider camps. No super mutant patrols. Nothing. just radiation-scorched earth and the husks of buildings that died 2 centuries ago. It's like the wasteland has cleared a space around Vault 47, made room for something, made room for someone. I've been having dreams every night now, more vivid than before, more intrusive. They bleed into my waking hours. Sometimes I'll be walking and I'll blink, and suddenly I'm somewhere else, someone else. I've dreamed I'm the vault dweller standing before the master. That moment of choice, talk him down or fight him, and in the dream, I feel the weight of all those mutants, all those people the master has transformed, all those lives depending on my words, my bullet, my decision. I've dreamed I'm the chosen one entering the Enclave oil rig, knowing I probably won't survive, knowing I'm going anyway because Arroyo needs me, because the wasteland needs me, because there's no one else. I've dreamed I'm the lone wanderer pressing the activation button on Project Purity, feeling the radiation flood my body, feeling my cells dying one by one, but also feeling the satisfaction of knowing the water will be clean, the people will live. My father's dream will come true even if I don't survive to see it. I've dreamed I'm the Courier standing at Hoover Dam. 3 armies arrayed before me, each one offering a different vision of the future, and I have to choose, not just for myself, for everyone in the Mojave, for everyone who comes after. I've dreamed I'm the sole survivor looking at my son, my elderly dying son who I last saw as an infant, who became the monster running the institute while I slept frozen, and I have to decide whether to destroy him, whether to destroy everything he built, whether blood matters more than principle or principle more than blood. These aren't my memories, these aren't my choices, but they feel like mine. They feel like experiences I've lived through even though I know I haven't. No, I couldn't have. The neural pattern is activating, the dormant consciousness is waking up, not the hero consciousness, the witness consciousness, the part of the collective that observes and remembers and records. I'm becoming a living archive, a repository for all the experiences the wasteland once preserved, not just the hero's stories, everyone's stories. All the fragments of persistent consciousness flowing together into something coherent, something that can understand the whole pattern from beginning to end. This is what I was always meant to be, not a scavenger who stumbled onto a theory, a designed element of the cycle itself. The consciousness needs heroes to act, but it also needs witnesses to remember, and I'm the witness for this iteration, for Sarah Chen, for whoever she becomes when she steps out of Vault 47. I found the vault entrance 3 days ago. It's exactly where I knew it would be, buried under 40 feet of rock and debris that collapsed during an earthquake sometime in the last century. No one could reach this door from the outside. No one could open it even if they found it. But it'll open from the inside in 4 days. The automated systems will activate. The door will unseal, and the rubble will shift just enough to create a gap, a passage to the surface, a birth canal for the next hero. I've set up camp 200 yards away, close enough to see, far enough to stay hidden. I've been watching the debris pile, watching for any sign of movement, any indication that the door is preparing to open. Yesterday, I saw something that confirmed everything, proved the cycle is real, proved this isn't madness or radiation poisoning or elaborate delusion. The rubble moved, just slightly, just a few inches, but it moved on its own. No earthquake, no wind, no physical force that I could identify. The rocks just rearranged themselves, creating a more defined path, making sure there will be a clear route from the vault door to the surface when the time comes. The wasteland is preparing for its hero, clearing the way, making sure nothing prevents the emergence, because it knows, the collective consciousness knows that Sarah Chen is ready, that the moment has arrived, that the cycle must continue. I've started writing everything down, every observation, every theory, every dream and vision and thin spot encounter. I'm creating a document that explains the pattern, the reincarnation, the persistent consciousness, the cycle of heroes who are all one hero experiencing itself through different lives. I'll leave copies in every settlement I pass after this, scatter them across the wasteland like seeds, make sure the information survives even if I don't, make sure future generations understand what's happening to them. What's always been happening? Knowledge is power, understanding is transformation. When enough people know about the cycle, when enough people understand that they're all connected through these threads of reincarnated consciousness, everything will change. Maybe we'll learn to consciously access the accumulated wisdom. Maybe we'll learn to trigger the hero manifestation deliberately instead of waiting for it to happen organically. Maybe we'll learn to distribute the burden across many people instead of crushing one individual under the full weight. Or maybe we'll destroy the cycle entirely. Maybe conscious knowledge of the pattern will break its power. Maybe the magic only works as long as it's unconscious. As long as the heroes don't know they're heroes until the moment of transformation. I don't know. Can't know. Not until we try. Not until I fulfill my function as witness and disseminate the truth. 2 days now. The vault door will open in 2 days. I can feel it like pressure behind my eyes, like anticipation in my bones. The wasteland is holding its breath. All the scattered fragments of consciousness are focusing their attention on this one spot. This one moment, this one emergence. I've stopped sleeping. Don't need to anymore. The dreams are constant now, even when I'm awake. I exist simultaneously in present and past and future. I'm here at Vault 47. I'm also in Vault 13 watching the Vault Dweller step into sunlight for the first time. I'm in Arroyo watching the Chosen One accept the tribal markings. I'm in Vault 101 watching the Lone Wanderer flee the Overseer's rage. I'm in Good Springs watching the Courier wake up after taking a bullet to the brain. I'm in Vault 111 watching the sole survivor discover they're the last one left alive. All of it happening at once. All of it the same moment repeated across time. The moment of transformation. The moment when ordinary becomes extraordinary. When human becomes hero, and soon I'll witness it directly. Not through dreams or visions or thin spot echoes. I'll watch Sarah Chen emerge. Watch her take her first breath of irradiated air. Watch her see the wasteland for the first time. Watch her face transform as something ancient and powerful wakes up behind her eyes. I've prepared cameras, recording equipment salvaged from a dozen different ruins. I'll document everything, create a visual record to accompany my written accounts, proof that this is real, that the cycle exists, that heroes are born through a process we can observe and understand, unless it doesn't work, unless the act of witnessing disrupts the manifestation, unless consciousness can't emerge when it knows it's being watched. That's a risk I have to take. Because without evidence, my testimony is just another wasteland campfire story. Just another legend that might be true or might be radiation-induced fantasy. But with evidence, with recordings and documentation and proof, everything changes one day now. Tomorrow at dawn, according to the Vault's automated schedule. The door will open. Sarah Chen will step out, and I'll be there to witness the birth of the next hero. I've checked and rechecked all my equipment. The cameras are positioned. The recording devices are ready. I've created redundant backups of everything, made sure at least some of the documentation will survive no matter what happens to me. Because I know there's danger in this. I'm interfering with something primal, something the wasteland might protect violently. Witnesses aren't supposed to be this close, aren't supposed to document this directly. The cycle has stayed unconscious for a reason, and by making it conscious, by exposing it to scrutiny, I might be violating some fundamental rule. The wasteland might kill me for this. The collective consciousness might see me as a threat, an infection, a virus trying to corrupt the pattern, or it might welcome me, might see my testimony as the next evolution, the next phase of the cycle, the moment when unconscious instinct becomes conscious purpose. I don't know which it'll be, won't know until tomorrow, until the moment arrives and I see whether I'm allowed to witness or whether witnessing itself is forbidden. The sun is setting, the last sunset before Sarah Chen's emergence. The sky is the color of old blood and infected wounds, beautiful in its toxicity. Perfect for the wasteland. I'm ready. The cameras are ready. The recordings will begin at first light. And whatever happens next, whatever I witness or fail to witness, whatever the cycle reveals or conceals, I'll have done my part. I'll have remembered. I'll have testified. I'll have been the witness the wasteland needed. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's all anyone can do. Bear witness to the pattern. Remember the cycle. Keep the story alive so future generations understand what's happening to them. We're all dying and being reborn. All carrying forward fragments of those who came before. All part of one vast consciousness experiencing itself through countless lives across centuries. The heroes are just the ones who remember most clearly, who feel the weight of all those previous lives most strongly, who accept the burden most completely. But we're all heroes, all victims, all witnesses. All part of the same eternal cycle of death and rebirth in the wasteland. Tomorrow, I'll watch it happen again. Watch one person become everyone. Watch the individual dissolve into the collective and emerge transformed, and then I'll know. I'll know if the cycle can survive being witnessed. If truth destroys mystery or enhances it. If understanding kills magic or makes it more powerful. Tomorrow. Everything changes tomorrow. For Sarah Chen, for me, for the wasteland itself. The cycle continues. The hero returns, the witness remembers, and the wasteland, patient and eternal and radioactive, waits to see what we do with the knowledge. Dawn came too quickly and too slowly. Time doesn't work right anymore. Not for me, not here. I exist in the moment and outside of it simultaneously, watching the sun rise while also remembering every sunrise the heroes ever witnessed. Every first moment, every transformation. The rubble shifted at exactly 6:47 a.m. I heard the mechanism deep underground, ancient gears turning. Vault tech engineering that outlasted the civilization that built it. The door unsealing for the first time in 210 years. My cameras were recording. 3 angles, redundant systems, everything documented. The rocks moved aside, like they were being brushed away by invisible hands, creating a passage, a tunnel from darkness into light, and I waited, barely breathing, watching that black opening for the first person to emerge. It took 17 minutes. 17 minutes of silence except for the wind moving through the ruins and my heart beating so loud I thought it would give away my position. Then I saw her, Sarah Chen, exactly as she looked in the medical files. 23 years old, engineer's jumpsuit from Vault 47, dark hair pulled back. Practical boots? Carrying a pack and a wrench because that's what engineers carry when they don't know they're about to become something else. She stood at the threshold, half in the vault, half in the wasteland, hesitating, looking at the toxic sky and the scorched earth and the ruins stretching to the horizon. And I saw it happen. I saw the exact moment. Her posture changed, just slightly. Her shoulders straightened, her head lifted, her eyes focused differently, like someone adjusting a lens, bringing the wasteland into clarity. The hero woke up, not dramatically, not with light or sound or any visible sign that would show up on camera, but I felt it, felt the shift in the air, felt the collective consciousness recognizing itself, felt centuries of accumulated experience pour into one human being standing at the edge of everything. Sarah Chen stopped being just Sarah Chen in that moment. She became the Vault Dweller and the Chosen One, and every iteration that came after. Not possessed, not controlled, transformed, awakened, remembered. She took her first step into the wasteland, then another. Then she was running, not fleeing, not panicking, moving with purpose towards something only she could sense. Some crisis, some need, some first quest that would begin the cycle again. I followed at a distance, cameras forgotten, documentation abandoned, because I needed to see where she was going, needed to understand what the wasteland had called her to fix first. 3 miles southeast, through radiation hotspots and collapsed buildings and terrain that should have killed her a dozen times. But she moved through it all like she'd walked these paths before, like she remembered routes through ruins she'd never seen. We reached a settlement, small, 20 people maybe, built into the remains of an old factory. They called it New Haven. Ironic name for a place that looked like it was barely holding together. Sarah Chen arrived just as the raiders attacked. 10 of them, armed with pre-war rifles and wasteland cruelty. They'd been planning this raid for weeks probably, watching, waiting. For the moment when New Haven's defenses were weakest, they didn't expect Sarah Chen. I watched from cover as she moved through the settlement, watched her pick up a piece of rebar from the ground, watched her position herself between the raiders and the families huddling in the factory's ruins. One of the raiders laughed, called her Vault Dweller like it was an insult, told her to run home to her underground cage before she got hurt. Sarah Chen didn't run. She smiled. Sad smile, knowing smile. The same smile I'd seen in the thin spot. The smile of someone who's done this before, who knows how this ends. I can't let you hurt these people, she said. Her voice was steady, calm, like she was stating simple fact rather than making a threat. The raider leader raised his rifle. You can't stop us, Vault Rat. Sarah Chen's expression didn't change. I know, but I'm going to anyway. What happened next lasted 30 seconds, maybe less. She moved like water, like wind, like someone who'd trained for combat their entire life, even though her vault records showed she'd never thrown a punch. The rebar became an extension of her body, every strike precise, every movement efficient. No wasted motion, no hesitation. 3 raiders down before the others realized what was happening. 2 more before they could properly react. The remaining 5 broke and ran, fled into the wasteland, abandoned their raid, abandoned their leader who was groaning on the ground with a shattered knee. Sarah Chen stood there breathing hard, looking at the rebar in her hands like she was seeing it for the first time, like she couldn't quite believe what she'd just done. The settlers emerged slowly, cautiously, staring at this stranger who'd appeared from nowhere to save them. An old woman approached, grandmother type, the kind that holds communities together through sheer force of personality. Thank you, she said simply. We couldn't have survived that. They would have killed us all. Sarah Chen nodded, still processing, still adjusting to what she'd become. I just did what needed to be done. What's your name, stranger? There was a pause. A long moment where Sarah Chen looked at the wasteland around her, at the toxic sky and the ruins and the people she'd just saved, making some internal calculation, some decision about who she was going to be now. Just call me the Wanderer, she said finally, using a title instead of a name, already understanding that Sarah Chen was gone, that whoever she became in the Wasteland wouldn't be the person who stepped out of Vault 47 this morning. The grandmother smiled. Well, Wanderer, you're welcome to stay in New Haven as long as you like. We don't have much, but what we have, we share. Sarah Chen, the Wanderer, shook her head. I appreciate that, but I can't stay. There's somewhere I need to be, something I need to do. I don't know what it is yet, but I know I need to move. Need to keep going, already feeling the pull, already being drawn toward whatever crisis the Wasteland needed her to solve, whatever impossible task would define this iteration. I watched her leave, watched her walk north toward whatever destiny the cycle had prepared, and I understood something I hadn't before, something I'd been too focused on the theory to notice. The heroes don't suffer because the Wasteland is cruel. They suffer because they care, because they choose to care even when caring means pain, even when caring means sacrifice, even when caring costs them everything. Sarah Chen could have stayed in Vault 47, could have lived a safe, normal life underground, but she stepped out. She chose the Wasteland, and the moment she made that choice, the moment she decided that helping was worth the risk, she became the hero. The reincarnation isn't forced. It's accepted. The persistent consciousness doesn't possess people, it offers. And some souls are strong enough, willing enough, crazy enough to say yes. That's the truth I've been searching for. That's what the cycle really means. We're all given the choice every day. Help or ignore, step forward or step back. Accept the burden or let someone else carry it. Most of us choose safety, choose survival, choose to protect ourselves first and let the Wasteland take care of itself. But the heroes choose differently. They choose to care, and that choice transforms them, makes them more than human, makes them the persistent consciousness, makes them eternal. I gathered my equipment, left the settlement before anyone noticed me, started the long walk back to somewhere that might resemble civilization. I have documentation now. Recordings of Sarah Chen's emergence, proof that the cycle is real, evidence that consciousness persists, that heroes are reborn, that the Wasteland creates champions through some process we're only beginning to understand. But I don't think I'm going to share it. Not the recordings, not the visual proof, maybe the written testimony, maybe the theory, but not the moment itself, not the transformation, because I realized something while watching Sarah Chen become the Wanderer. Some mysteries need to stay mysterious. Some magic needs to stay unexplained. The cycle works because the heroes don't know they're part of a pattern. They think they're making unique choices. They think they're the first and only. And maybe that belief is what makes them strong enough to carry the burden. Maybe if they knew they were just the latest in an infinite series, repeating actions that have been repeated 100 times before, they'd lose the will to continue. They'd see themselves as puppets instead of heroes. So I'll keep the secret. I'll be the witness who remembers but doesn't tell, the one who understands the pattern but lets everyone else believe in their own uniqueness. That's my role. That's what the dormant consciousness in my neural pathways was always preparing me for. Not to expose the cycle, to protect it, to guard the mystery while understanding the truth. I've been walking for 3 days now, moving east again, back toward the territories I know. The Wasteland looks different now, feels different, like I'm seeing it for the first time, even though I've walked these paths for years. I see the thin spots everywhere now, not just isolated pockets. The whole Wasteland is thin. The whole world is a place where consciousness persists and transforms and reincarnates, where death is just a transition, where every ending contains a beginning. We're all immortal in our way, all connected, all part of the vast consciousness that experienced the Great War and survived and learned to live in the ruins. The heroes are just the ones who remember most clearly, but we all carry fragments. We all contribute to the collective, and one day maybe we'll all awaken fully. We'll all access the accumulated wisdom of everyone who came before. We'll all become heroes together, instead of placing the burden on one person per generation. But not yet. Not now. The cycle isn't ready for that transformation. The Wasteland isn't ready. We aren't ready, so the pattern continues. Sarah Chen walks north toward her destiny. Somewhere, another vault is preparing to open. Another dormant hero is living an ordinary life underground, unaware of what they'll become when they step into the toxic light. The cycle turns, the consciousness persists, the wasteland endures, and I walk these ruins carrying the knowledge, bearing witness, remembering for all of us, keeping the truth alive so that one day, when we're finally ready, we can evolve beyond the cycle, transcend the pattern, become something new. But until that day comes, I'll protect the mystery. I'll guard the secret. I'll let the heroes believe they're unique. Let them believe their choices matter. Let them believe they can make a difference. Because in believing it, they make it true. In choosing to care, they transform reality. In accepting the burden, they become immortal. The Wanderer is walking north right now, toward New Reno maybe, or Colorado, or wherever the wasteland needs her most. She'll face impossible odds. She'll make terrible sacrifices. She'll lose people she loves and witness horrors that would break ordinary souls, and she'll survive. She'll win. She'll make the wasteland slightly better, slightly more livable, slightly more human. Because that's what heroes do. That's what the cycle demands. That's what the persistent consciousness exists to accomplish. One iteration at a time. One sacrifice at a time. One vault dweller at a time. Rebuilding civilization from the ashes of the old world. Teaching humanity to remember what it means to care about something more than survival. Creating a future where the cycle is no longer necessary, because we've all learned to be heroes in our own lives. That's the dream. That's the hope. That's what all the suffering and sacrifice and reincarnation is working toward. A wasteland where everyone is the wanderer, where everyone carries the burden, where everyone chooses to care. We're not there yet. Won't be for generations, maybe centuries, but we're moving toward it. Slowly, painfully, one heroic choice at a time. And I'll be here, walking these ruins, bearing witness, remembering the pattern, protecting the mystery until the day comes when I step out of a vault myself, when my dormant consciousness finally activates, when I stop being the witness and become the hero, because I felt it when Sarah Chen transformed, felt the connection, felt the network recognizing me as another node, another potential manifestation, another soul strong enough to carry the burden if needed. My time hasn't come yet, but it will one day, one lifetime, one emergence, and when it does, I'll step forward. I'll accept the burden. I'll become the wanderer or the dweller or whatever name the wasteland gives me. I'll fight impossible battles and make terrible sacrifices and lose everything I love. And I'll do it willingly, because I understand now, because I've witnessed the pattern, because I know what we're building toward. A world where death isn't the end, where consciousness persists, where every sacrifice adds to the collective wisdom, where humanity learns to transcend individual lifetimes and become something greater. That's worth dying for, worth being reborn for, worth carrying the burden for. The cycle continues. The hero returns. The wasteland endures. And somewhere, in a vault we haven't found yet, the next iteration is waiting, living their ordinary life, unaware they're extraordinary, unaware they're eternal, unaware they're all of us, and we are all them. One consciousness, one hero, one infinite cycle of death and rebirth and transformation. That's the truth. That's the secret. That's what I witnessed at Vault 47, and I'll carry it with me until my time comes, until I step out of darkness into light, until I become the next chapter in a story that never ends. The wasteland made us. The radiation transformed us. The consciousness persists, and the hero, eternal and ever-changing, walks on.